Glad we could make it. Perfect. Ready for Frank About Health. We're ready to talk honestly. This is Frank About Health. Let's get real.
Hey everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Frank About Health. The episode is titled God Doesn't Relapse with Matt Grace. My special guest today is the very person himself, Matt Grace, who has a new book out on the marketplace on August 11, 2026 called God Doesn't Relapse. Here is the actual copy of it that I've been having the privilege to read over the last several weeks. Matt is a very interesting person on many levels. How can I say that? Well, first of all, he's one of the first guests to ever take me out to dinner to discuss his appearance on Frank About Health. Thank you, by the way, Matt, for that opportunity. Now, what I think was even special about it, it was across the street from the very church that I was baptized at the age of 7, Marble Collegiate Church. So I think it was divine intervention that kind of brought us together. But more importantly, he has a very compelling story about addiction and how he almost did not make his way through it. But I believe through divine intervention, as well as some of the other things that happened in his life, which you'll learn about during the hour, you will see that he definitely was saved, or rather he was held by the hand of God to be able to use his experience to really help others that are in the throes of addiction. And of course, recovering from rehabilitation or other kinds of treatments or therapies they're going through. Now, I usually issue a medical disclaimer, but this is a autobiographical story of a survivor of addiction, someone who is continuing to fight his way through it and is doing his best to educate others on how to fight their ways through it as well. I think the book is going to be a good starting place for a lot of people, but we'll also talk more within the hour about an ongoing tour speaking series that he is involved in. Marble Collegiate Church was one such venue, but at the same time, other venues that will definitely be more active after the book comes out in August. So we're going to spend the next hour doing a review of the book, a review of his story, but really educating all of you out there to understand that addiction is not just a clinical or physical problem involving drugs or alcohol. It's also a very big mental health problem. And one such thing that Matt talks about, the common thread of boundaries, and which I really want to have an open discussion with him about that during the hour as well. So again, my disclaimer is these are the views of Matt Grace. They are not the views of this network or of this show, Frank About Health. However, I advocate for what he will share with us today, and therefore I welcome anyone out there who's watching on YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook to go ahead and comment during the hour so that we can be able to get back to you and probably give you more information about how Matt and his book are really going to take people down a journey of recovery and focus and purpose and other kinds of things which he himself will illustrate what has happened with him. So that all being said, Matt, welcome to Frank About Health. Thank you so much. I know it's been 3 months since we first met, but I'm glad that I finally had the time to have you on right before your upcoming release on August 11th.
Thank you so much for having me. And definitely divine inspiration that we had dinner across from the church that you got baptized.
Yes.
And the Marble Church, you know, with quite a reputation and quite a history.
Absolutely. And I'm sorry if this sounds a little bit like I'm tooting my own horn, but the man who baptized me was Norman Vincent Peale. And I know
founded the church, correct?
I'm sorry, say that again?
He founded that church?
I don't think he was a founder of the church, but I know he was a very instrumental person for about a good 50 years in the 1900s because he wrote a book called The Power of Positive Thinking.
Right.
And he used that in a lot of his ministry when he was, I think, the head minister at Marble.
Nice.
Yes. But again, we were brought together by many forces beyond our control, but I think it was for a great purpose. And so I guess the first question I would have to ask is, being that this is a show, being transparent about health, frank about health, I already know a lot of your story as what was going on in your life, and you could share some of that. But I think my audience wants to know how you were able to own your story, given all of your trials and tribulations, all the way from preschool through the time you were 18, watching your best friend die, watching your mother give you ultimatums, watching your father be an enabler, but yet you were able to still center it all on yourself and grab hold of it somehow. So I think I would like to have a brief synopsis of your story, but more importantly, to create the rest of the narrative for the hour, especially in discussing your book. What is the big takeaway that you had from your experience that really put you on this mission?
So it's really important to understand, like you said, I had severe behavioral health problems, mental health problems as a kid, expelled from schools. I went to a therapist who told me I wanted to have sex with my mother and castrate my father for 9 years. Even though everybody in my family interviewed him and hated him, my behavior got worse. Then I found drugs, alcohol, sex addiction, gambling, went through jobs, wrecked cars, wrecked relationships, held my family hostage for 13 years, lied, stole, manipulated, committed felonies. And at the end of the day, pain was the greatest motivator for me to want to change. The consequences really were insufficient. But at the end of the day, it was boundaries that my mother put in place and held the line.
Yes.
That really helped me. Boundaries save lives. And she was able to do what most parents can't do, which was create accountability and said that if you're going to die, it's not going to be in my house.
Right. Now,
I surrounded myself with a group of men who told me what I needed to hear and not what I wanted to hear. So I think that the starting point for anybody who's trying to recover is honesty. Can I look in the mirror and be honest with who I was and who I want to be?
Yes.
And thank God that I had developed insight to be able to really dissect who I was, even without the drugs and the alcohol. Mm-hmm. And so the men who I got sober with said, everybody has trauma in their life, not just alcoholics.
Yes.
And it's time to just really become accountable. And instead of blaming everybody else for your problems, do you want to be a survivor? Or do you want to have the victim mentality? Because I've had a lot of trauma. But at the end of the day, there's always someone who has had it worse.
Correct.
And so, I wrote my book because I worked 10,000 hours in the addiction space, primarily with high net worth families.
Yes.
Unfortunately, as we've talked about, not just in the addiction space, but in healthcare, a lot of the ancillary services are very expensive and a lot of families can't afford them.
Right.
And so I wrote my book to reach a broader audience.
Yes.
And to really help people who are struggling, who may not have a lot of resources, that can implement two very powerful things.
Right.
That don't cost anything. And those two things, and they get looked over a lot, are service and prayer. And I want to be very clear. I don't care if you're an atheist, an agnostic, or a religious person.
Right.
I don't care if you go to AANA, Smart Recovery, or any other program. I believe that the concept of helping someone else predates any program.
Yes, I agree.
And so I think that anybody, and I would ask you, or anybody else who's watching, I think everybody at one time in their life has gone out of their way to do something kind for someone else and not expect anything in return.
Yes.
Right? And so my question to you is that how did that make you feel?
Oh, well, I loved it. I loved it when I found myself helping a person that was in true need over an issue, whether it was a health issue, a financial issue, or otherwise. And I knew, or I could identify with their problem either because I either dealt with the problem myself or I knew someone who did, and I was able to give them the answers to the very questions they were asking themselves, but they were asking themselves by not facing up to the situation. So just the achievement and the pivot, the changeover from that person's predicament to some path to recovery was very self-rewarding. So it made me feel very good.
Yeah, I actually Googled the definition of happiness. I know I'm sure there's probably now with Claude and AI, there's probably 10 pages, but it said doing something for someone else and not expect anything in return. And I think that that's a beautiful definition of happiness because I've tried
Yes.
to fill my spirit, and growing up with affluence and privilege, I always thought that happiness was going to be some kind of material object. And so
Yeah,
I
I
thought,
can see how you would think that. No, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you. Say that again.
so my mentor said there's nothing wrong with liking nice things as long as I own them and they don't own me.
Yeah, that seems to be the conundrum, though, which is probably why someone like yourself, who grew up in wealth and privilege, also found yourself in the throes of addiction, because it almost was the same feeling you were reaching out to by taking pleasure in giving or doing whatever it was that was making you happy. But apparently, it seems as though it was all conditional with restrictions that were untold. And when all of a sudden you found yourself with negative consequences, you didn't find the pleasure, you found the pain instead.
Yes. By the time that I threw in the towel, the drugs and alcohol were killing me physically, but also emotionally and spiritually. I had nothing
Mm.
left. I was showering with the lights off. So when I got out of the shower, I couldn't even look at
Wow.
myself in the mirror. And so it's
Incredible.
not, so service is not sexy. Prayer is not sexy, right?
Correct.
People want to throw money. And I'm a big believer in therapy. I'm a big believer in many pathways to recovery. But at the
Yes.
end of the day, what are you going to do when you're 2 years out, let's say from treatment or IOP or therapy or what have you? You have to re-enter society and stand on your own 2 feet at some point, and
Yes.
you have to build a foundation that's going to be long lasting. And
Yes.
because especially someone with ADHD and grew up with all these learning disabilities, addicts and alcoholics have a very short attention span, and instant gratification is something that's very important because when you put the bottle to your lips or a needle in your arm or swallow a pill, it takes you to nirvana pretty quickly. Now, what
Right.
happens when you take those things away, you have to replace it with something else. And you
Yes.
have to be careful with what that something else is because for me, it's women, food, gambling, shopping. And
Yes.
so one of the healthiest things you can do, and my mentor said something else. He said, if you want self-esteem, then you need to start doing esteemable things.
Exactly.
And
So
so,
it
go
sounds
ahead.
like an external life based on everything you've just said.
Yeah, and even at 13 years of sobriety, I, when my father passed away, I started buying the things that society said I should have, right? The home, I got to have the woman, the car, the country club, the clothes, right?
Yeah.
Because I need to impress upon other people that I'm successful, right? So it's sort of an imposter syndrome.
Right, right, right. So would you say also the pain that you were having through the throes of addiction and all of the unaccountability periods in your life was stemming from not being in touch with your inner self?
Oh,
Is that
it was
probably
several things. It was
okay?
starting at a young age, not getting the right help that I needed from that therapist who took advantage of my family,
Yeah.
the learning disabilities and not getting ahead of that, the addiction, and my father sweeping and I just like to add, this is incredible. My mother passed away, as you know, 2 weeks ago.
That's
And,
right. And
and so
I'm sorry for your loss.
thank you. But you know what?
Mhm.
The best gift that I gave to my parents and myself is that they both passed knowing that I was sober. My dad passed when I had
Right.
11 years of sobriety, and my mom just recently 21 years of sobriety. But what I want to
Wow.
say is that, and this is the hope that I'm trying to inspire
Instill.
people with. I
Yes.
was my mom's caretaker, and I was able to administer liquid Dilaudid via syringe into her mouth. She looked dead. It was brutal. And anybody who's been a caretaker can understand what it's like to take care of a parent, even if
Yes.
they have home health care aides.
Right.
My
Right.
mom trusted me not only to administer the Dilaudid and not be triggered by it,
Right.
but also to take over her financial affairs several years before the accident. Well, there's no greater gift than the trust of a parent.
Right, especially after what you had been through with all of the episodes through the throes of addiction, where it sounds like, especially through the book, that your parents lost trust and faith in you.
Oh, my mom said by the time I was 5, she couldn't trust a word that came out of my mouth.
Wow.
So I was hustling and manipulating. So what's so great about this is that when I was cleaning out her independent living, I found a letter she wrote to my father 30 years ago. And I
What
just
was
have to
that
share.
like?
It was incredible because in one of my social clips, I said, parents, this is why I wrote my book. Because I often face the dichotomy of one parent trying to set boundaries and the other parent just running them over. So my parents were divorced, and my mom wrote this letter to him after I had left treatment, a
Yes.
couple of years after the first treatment. And it
Yes.
said to my father, Matt tells you what you want to hear and only what you want to hear. And she said, I'm not sure if he's using, but he's still manipulating. He's still lying. He's still conning. He blew his this is when I'm 20 years old. He
Right.
blew his monthly allowance on gambling and asked me to reimburse him. He ordered 1-800-sex line numbers to my telephone. Now I'm dating myself. And ran up my phone bill. He ran up my Video Max bill. He's failing out of geology and asked me to get him a letter to get him out of it from a doctor. I would not do that. I'm not going to co-sign that.
Right.
And he lost his driver's license because I slammed into the back of a parked F-150 and I left the scene of an accident. And so here is this beautiful letter saying, if we just keep giving him more money, it's tantamount to putting drugs in his hand. I will not destroy his life. Do you want to? Imagine finding a letter like that.
But at least you're reading it after the fact. It's like you say you prove them both wrong, but for the right reason.
Well, my mom tried to instill boundaries and discipline, and my father he wouldn't. He wanted to sweep my addiction under the rug. And to whomever is listening, I'm saying that parents have to do their own work. It's not just, they can't just rely on the addict to get well himself, because
Right.
the addict comes home or the alcohol comes home, and then the parents are still in the same toxic behavior.
Yes.
Where one parent is enabling and the other parent is not, and the whole family is just a hornet's nest.
Huh.
And so I'm begging parents to do their own work. I know sometimes it's expensive to get a family therapist, but if you can afford one, it is so essential that parents or spouses or grandparents, that they do their own work and they learn how their behavior is contributing to the destructiveness of their loved one.
Right. Right. So then I guess the question I have for you is, you did mention that you gave to your mother Dilaudid. What is Dilaudid exactly?
So the liquid Dilaudid is, sorry, I'm trying to balance my headspace here.
Oh, no, it's okay. Maybe I'm actually going away from what you just said. So
No, not at all.
Okay.
So it's important because there's just a lot of bad information that scares people out of recovery. Eventually, once you have long-term sobriety, you should be able to be around a dying parent and distribute medication.
Okay.
Without
the risk of you actually taking the medication.
So in the beginning, I don't recommend it. But what I want to impress upon people is that once you have some time under your belt, you're not going to be triggered by drugs or alcohol if you build your program on a foundation of service and prayer.
Absolutely.
And so my mom trusted me. So Dilaudid is a very, very, very strong opiate.
Okay.
It's stronger than morphine. And the hospice nurse,
a lot of pain.
Yes, the hospice nurse would, I would just make up the whole syringe, and my mom couldn't swallow anymore. So I had to administer it to the side of her mouth and then rub it into the side of her mouth. And I wasn't triggered one time. And that's the gift. That's why I said God doesn't relapse, because in my experience, there was a time when I would not have been able to be in the same room, and my mom would have had the Federal Reserve or the Federal Guard outside of her building to protect her from me.
Oh, God.
Right? Because I would have stolen those syringes. Actually, someone commented and said, that's liquid gold that you're holding. But she also had a fentanyl patch.
Yes.
She had the buffet of an opiate paradise. And the fact that I was not bothered or triggered is eventually where you're supposed to be, and it's supposed to end up in recovery. And so if there's someone new or if there's a family that's watching, that is what real sobriety looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the aides almost killed my mom, giving her the wrong dose. So what am I going to say with 21 years of sobriety? I can't handle the syringe. No, you're going to take care of your mother.
Right. Exactly. So then let me ask you this. You obviously have developed in your years of sobriety a firm personal boundary that will not allow you to go back into the throes of addiction. Now, because the title of the book, God Doesn't Relapse, would you say it is God, him or herself, that is keeping you that way? Or is it something in your mind that comes back to you that prevents you from even crossing that line? Or what other mechanism is keeping you contained?
So it's twofold.
Okay.
As I've mentioned, I surrounded myself with a group of men. I wanted what they had. I walked downstairs to a meeting.
Yes.
And everybody was smiling except me because I still wanted to kill myself.
That's
and
right.
they said, have you tried getting on your knees to pray? And I didn't like that idea, but pain makes you willing to try new things. Trust me.
Yes.
If you have enough pain. And I said, well, what do I have to lose? I got on my knees on October 3rd, 2004, 6:30 in the morning. And I had a white light spiritual experience that lasted 25 minutes where the drugs and alcohol, the obsession was removed instantaneously.
Incredible.
And I share that because most people don't have that kind of experience. They have an educational variety spiritual experience, which happens over a period of time.
Right.
So you don't have to have the white light. But I was contacted by God. And I say that now I realized, as someone who grew up, excuse me, as a Jewish person, that I wasn't chosen for my religion, but I was chosen to serve. That it was time for me to start serving. It's time to me to start giving back. And that was what was so impressed upon me, was that it sounds like my mentor said, you've been a taker your whole life. It's time to start giving back.
Right.
You have to be in a position to be able to receive that message. And one of the things that's happened today is that the minute that you see someone kind of drifting away and you try to say something lovingly but in a confrontational way, then now they're not your friend anymore.
Right.
So I'm just asking people to be very open-minded and to be able to take some, not criticism, but just people who are trying to help you not go down the wrong path.
Absolutely.
So there was that first experience, but then it developed a shelf life that I almost went back out. So at 10 months of sobriety, my spiritual experience started to fade. And my mentor called me and kind of just not chewed me out, but said, what are you giving back to this program that saved your life? You know, I don't really see you doing a lot of service. And I had some choice words for him. And I left the office.
Yes.
And then I called my drug dealer. She picked up the phone and she said, I heard you're sober, and I just think that's awesome. And I've never had the urge to use again. That was at 10 months. There's not many drug dealers who will congratulate you on sobriety.
Yes.
Now, here's where the title came in.
Okay.
16 years of sobriety. I'm a young man. I don't have to worry about money.
Yes.
Life is gold. I don't think about drugs. I don't think about alcohol. I have friends. I'm traveling. I'm living my full life. And then COVID hits me. And I became gravely ill.
You had long COVID, or you had life
long
support?
COVID and fibromyalgia.
Wow. Okay.
And so here's what happens. Now, I'm very open-minded to the whole concept of God. You know, my book is not religious, so I want people to understand that I have a message for atheists and agnostics as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that when I got sick, right, some people go scuba diving. That's their spirituality. Or they go on yoga retreats to Costa Rica.
Right.
Or they go mountain climbing.
Yes.
Right? They tap into their own, whether it's nature. But what I say is, what happens when you become chronically ill? We're all going to face that. You've had your health consequences, dealing with epilepsy, right? And so, unfortunately, you and I have both experienced some health problems as young men. And most of my friends have not experienced health problems. And so it's very hard for someone to relate with chronic pain and a chronic condition.
Right.
And so I was this close to taking my own life again at 16 years of sobriety, because the pain was so severe that I thought I was going to end up in a wheelchair. And I said, you know what? I don't need this in my life. I've had a long life. It's been challenging. I'm going to check out. And then what I said to myself was, you know what though? If I take my own life at 16 years of sobriety because of an illness, what kind of demonstration is that to new people? Right? That's a cop out. And the way that I wrapped my head around it was almost like it was a test saying, all right, you believed in me when things were incredible, when you're driving a sports car and you're traveling. Let's see how faithful you are when you have a chronic illness. And that's just the way that I wrap my head around it. And I believe that we're all tested in this universe at some point, somehow.
Yes.
Someone's going to, I had a friend whose son was brutally murdered.
Oh, wow.
He had 6 years of sobriety, but he said, I'm a survivor. I'm not a victim. And I'm not going to use my son's death, right? That mentality. He said, I have other people in my family that count on me.
Yes.
And for me to go back out would just be selfish.
Mm-hmm.
That's the kind of mind frame in my book of people who share stories who have faced dire consequences in their life.
Right.
And that they had some type of faith. Because let me tell you, as you know, the world moves on. Just because you're sick doesn't mean that you're right. Like, people are going to play golf. They're going to go to work. They have their own lives, their kids. They have their own problems.
Yes.
Well, I was in bed for 5 months. It was the truest test of faith that I had ever experienced, even more so than when I was using drugs and alcohol.
Right.
And I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm still not the same. They said I won't be 100% again. And I'm just dealing with it. And what I took out of it was I stopped feeling sorry for myself. And then when I was able to start serving again, I went back to the things that really filled my spirit, which was, and I'm trying to inspire men and women, but young men are struggling in this country. If you go to a morgue right now, 4 out of 5 suicides are young men.
Wow.
And so they've never felt more disconnected, having problems with employment, dating, and isolated.
Yes.
And so my purpose is, yes, I want to help addicts recover, and I want to help families learn how to put boundaries in place. And that's what my book is. It's half memoir, half case study.
Yes. Yes.
And so I put the 10,000 hours or the case studies in the book, and I talk about the successful cases that worked, families did, and also the ones that didn't work and why.
Nice. Nice. So the thing that I'm picking up from everything you've just said is that from the time you were in preschool all the way till you finally started sobriety, the one thing that was not enhanced within you was ownership or agency over your spirit and your soul. And that feeling of constant disconnection from yourself really just fed all of the distractive behaviors, the addiction, the disruption in school, the expel moments you had in preschool. I mean, it seems like you were lost, as you do say in the book, but you were never given, it doesn't sound like you were given even the seeds or the foundation to harness that individuation process that we all go through starting as children all the way through adulthood. Is that a safe statement?
Yeah, so you know, when you're a kid, you don't know how to articulate that your spirit is broken.
Correct. Okay.
Right? I could get by knowing that back in 1980, they didn't really talk a lot about ADHD that much.
Right.
So right. I knew something was wrong in school, but there was something else going on internally that clearly made school officials very concerned about my future, my parents, the trouble that I was getting into. And it wasn't until I got older. See, people ask me all the time, yes, trauma plays a part in my recovery, in my past, but my spirit was impacted. And if you go to a liquor store, what's one of the words that they have above the store? Spirits.
Spirits.
Right? Because my favorite speaker said, if you go to the worst cities in the country, what are the 2 most prominent things? Churches and liquor stores. Why? Because they both give men hope. One through the bottle and the other through God. I just love that
That
I
is
love to
very
speak it,
interesting. I
right?
mean, it's definitely more than just a metaphor. It's the definition of the very thing that all of us are looking for, whether we're sober or not. And it just sounds like to me, and I guess based on the description of how you said your father was more your best friend than your father,
Mhm.
would you say that maybe just out of ignorance or not being fully aware, do you think he was not even focused on the idea of you as an infant or even a preschooler even having a spirit, or that he just thought that was something you earned? Or what would be your takeaway
Oh,
from that?
so listen, parents do the best they can.
Exactly.
And I'm not talking about that. That's how, you asked how I took ownership of my life.
Right, right.
In my book, I say that my parents failed me as a child, but I failed myself as an adult.
Okay, so you just relied on what you already were taught,
But,
or
how long, if I get pulled over for drinking and driving, can I tell the officer that I had a tough childhood?
no?
No. Hey, officer, I'm in trauma. I've had trauma. I'm in trauma. I'm doing EMDR therapy right now. I'm in treatment. No, you're gonna get arrested.
Yes.
Right? You have
Right.
consequences, and you have to face the consequences of your actions. And
Yes.
so, what I say in my book, I said to my father, this book is not an indictment of his failure. It's a testament to what happens when you love someone too much.
Because when you love someone too much, you're always willing to say yes. There's no such thing as boundaries.
Correct. And there was an article a long time ago, and it said parents are loving their kids to death.
Very to the point. That's very interesting.
So I'm really trying to. There's a lot of young adults who are living at home right now,
Yes.
and it's not healthy. And it's one thing if you get divorced, right? There's circumstances where you have to come back home, but
Right.
there's kids who have never left home, who aren't contributing, and these parents are just facilitating this failure to launch, and they're not contributing anything, right?
Yeah.
Not rent, not groceries. Um, and so what kind of lesson is that? And it's the same thing with my family. My father just kept bailing me out of credit card debt and all my bad decisions. He kept softening my landing. And
Mm.
so I'm really asking parents to be parents. And I know it's not easy, but my book is it's like, I don't want your kid to end up like me, right?
Right.
Look what my parents did, and do the opposite, and you're gonna win. It's kind of like, right? It's a no brainer. I mean, the
Yeah.
lengths that my father went to enable me is extreme. But there's listen, there's a mom who's buying her daughter a Chanel purse, and there's also a mom who's buying her daughter a Coach purse, and it goes all the way down, right?
Right.
It's not just the affluent that are enabling their kids. It's in all shapes and sizes.
Yes.
And I'll tell you, one of the things that caught me off guard. I mean, trust me, I was as disrespectful as you could get.
Mm.
But one of the first families that I worked with, on our first call, he called his mother the C word.
Mm.
And I was so shocked that she just let it slide. And so one of the things that I did was I said, all right, time out. I can tell you that I don't do this job for the money,
Mm-hmm.
right? I believe I was spared to be of service,
Yes.
and I want your family to succeed. But if I ever hear him call you that word again, I'm not going to work with your family.
Incredible.
He never did it again. So the parents have more power than they think they do. And one
Yes.
of the things I say is, don't ever let someone who's not going to school, who's getting high, who's not contributing. I say, who pays the mortgage? Oh, well, I do. Right? Well, who pays the consumer's energy and the cable bill and the
Yes.
grass cutting, right?
Yes.
And I say, don't ever let someone who's not contributing anything disrespect you in your own house. You have to
Mm-hmm.
have boundaries.
Exactly.
And you see kids in the airport who are screaming and hitting their parents, and they're just trying to negotiate with them. And like I said, the first time my mom put a real boundary down,
Mm-hmm.
she tried, but the one that she kept saved my life.
Awesome. But this is the thing that I think was different with you, though. For you to have that come to Jesus moment, I guess would be the right phrase, where you actually experience that white light and connecting and finally communicating with you and realizing that your soul was needing to be reactivated as it was, and others don't deal with that, must mean that in your case, maybe they did get such messages, but in a different level of intensity, maybe because they already had a sense of themselves internally, like they had a sense of spirit, even if they were going through addiction or whatever. It varying degrees. It's relative depending on the person. But I think what happened to you may sound unique, but is actually the moment that we all face in one way, shape, or form. Sometimes in our dreams, sometimes through a chronic episode, a chronic illness episode. Like when I used to have seizures, I would feel like I had become one with God after I came out of the seizure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I was in delirium, but I knew that God was with me. So I had that sense of faith that I would recover from it somehow. But in your case, I think I could see that it educates everyone who listens to your story that within yourself, that faith and that anchor of knowing that you have a relationship with God or some spirit that is keeping, in your case, keeping you sober, that becomes the ultimate relationship that we all strive for to keep our spirits under control. Is that safe to say here?
Yeah, and I think that the what I want to impress upon people is that as far as service goes, I've worked with just about every type of diagnosis, schizophrenia, bipolar 1, bipolar 2, personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, anxious avoidant. I've had a lot of experience working with different things. Now, I want to point something out because this is, I had no empathy for schizophrenics or people suffering from bipolar disorder because I didn't understand it. And I thought that they, just like everything else, I had bad ideas. I was judgmental, selfish. See these people in these poor people in the street who are having an episode. Look at these losers as a kid, right? I just I felt like the world owed me something, right? I had to have a spiritual shift that I felt like I had to owe the world something in return. Now, there was a young man who my mentor was working with, bipolar. His disposition was extremely morose, head down, never a smile, chronic relapser. So I said something to my mentor. I said, God, you used to be so hard on me. Why don't you get him some service positions? And he got a service position on a Tuesday night at a meeting and a Sunday night. And he's been clean and sober for 6 years, and his disposition changed dramatically.
Wow.
He smiles more. People want to, because when someone is manic and they're head down and not smiling and not talking, people are uncomfortable around that because they don't know what to do. Right. Once I started working with them, then I became more comfortable and started approaching them. But it just goes to show you that my recommendations of service are not a subtraction of medication. It's an additional layer of protection.
Right.
So I want to be very clear about that. And with regard to people who struggle with the God concept, I have a couple of notes, which are incredible. I have a friend who lives in Florida.
Yes.
He is as far away from God as I am close to him. And I have a hard time listening to him talk about it. But I'll tell you one thing about this guy. He was an IV heroin user. And for the past 33 years, he's been taking a meeting into a treatment center at least once a month for 33 years.
Wow.
That is respect.
Yes.
That's the type of man who I want to follow. And what's so cool about that is I believe that service is his higher power.
Okay.
So you don't have to believe in God to make a pot of coffee. Let's just be honest.
Understood. So I guess this becomes the perfect time to actually feature your book, show the audience out there the cover. And I guess what you write about in the book is pretty much what you just said, that God in this case is not the actual spiritual God that everyone hears about in church or in religion, but God depends on the individual and how they embrace that connection to that divine light, like in your case, or even the individual you just mentioned in Florida who is committed to service, even if he is far away from God. So do you cover that whole notion of how God fits each of us or each of the
Yes,
readers in the book?
100%.
All right.
Absolutely.
So is there a
And you know
specific
what?
chapter or section of the book that focuses
I
that?
think it's interwoven, but I want
Okay.
to point out the title so we don't miss that. It's Sex, Drugs, and the Life That Almost Killed Me. And this memoir is very raw, but I wanted to put myself out there to talk about pornography and prostitution, and escorts and strippers, because it's destroying a lot of young men. Porn especially is wreaking havoc. And
Yeah.
I've been very aggressive about what I share in my social, because it's not easy to put yourself out there like that. But I said to
Right.
myself, I'm 50, I don't have kids, and I want to help people. And
Right.
it's just sex. I'm sorry. Yeah. Sex and gambling have gotten swept under the rug.
Mm.
And with the sports betting apps on the phone and porn on your phone, it's destroying people. And
Mm.
so I talk about service helping me there as well. That if
Right.
I'm watching porn 3 hours a day, if I go be of service at a soup kitchen or even to my grandparents or a senior home,
Yes.
anything for an hour, well, guess what? Now that's only 2 hours a day I'm watching porn, right? And so, again, I think that people are looking for quick fixes and shortcuts. I was the king of shortcuts
Right.
because my father paid people to do my homework. And so that set a bad precedent of that I can just buy my way out of life.
Yes.
And so I can't be more clear that money it's extremely important. Don't get me wrong. I'm a capitalist. I believe in nice things, and I believe that you need money for healthcare,
Oh, yes.
right?
Absolutely.
I think
Yeah.
it's important, but it's not going to save your life as far
Right.
as making you happy. Happy is a byproduct that comes and goes.
That's right.
My book is trying to help people become functional.
Correct.
Nobody's happy all the time.
Correct. I mean, in order to maintain as much a majority of the time of happiness as you can, you just have to be true to yourself and follow your mission, and don't let the distractions that can easily come in, you at least compartmentalize them or keep them within boundaries like we've been speaking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I gather from what you're bringing up, some of this stuff is discussed in the book. So it could be like a guide or a handbook of sorts, especially for people that are recovering from addiction, right?
So 100%. But I'm also, you see, there's also a movement that people are less. Now, I have seen a resurgence to the Catholic Church from young men,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that everybody needs to be open-minded and accepting of everybody with
Yes.
their right. Like, my definition in relationship with God doesn't have to be the same as anybody else.
Right.
And I talk about that. But I think that the greatest equalizer, if you're really in addiction, you're deep down in some kind of pain, pornography, gambling, sex addiction, drugs, alcohol, the quickest way to self-esteem and the quickest way to feel better about yourself is to just get out there
Mm-hmm.
and find something that you're committed to. Find a charity, find a social event, find a senior living. Do you know how many when my mom was in independent living, how many people don't visit their parents? It's shocking.
Mm-hmm.
It was heartbreaking to see that.
It is heartbreaking, and also they don't realize that the same thing is going to happen to them ultimately.
I know, that's why I saw my mom every day. So I said, God, please take a look at what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
Throw me a bone.
Absolutely.
So
Exactly.
now, this is how God works in my life, and I want other people to pay attention because I know it's not just me.
Right.
And this is when I knew that, because the book is very raw and it's very brutally honest, and I
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't have it any other way.
Right.
And when I wrote this book, the day I started talking about my fourth grade English teacher, and I started writing about it because I had a major resentment towards her.
Mm.
I had not seen her in 40 years, keep in mind. I ran into her.
Right.
Now, I don't care what you are. If
That's
you're an
how God
atheist,
works.
that is how the universe, that's not a coincidence. I mean,
That's right.
people will argue and all the trolls online will be like, oh, coincidence, but
No.
and anybody who is alive can sense that is something special. And when I walked up to her, I tapped her on the shoulder and I said, Mrs. So-and-so, you were my fourth grade English teacher. And she looked at me and said, what school? Where were you?
Yeah.
And I said, well, my name is Matt Grace, and I went to Hill All Day School. And she stopped and then turned and looked at me with a visceral reaction and said, you're the worst kid I ever had.
God.
I took her back just like that. She said, you're the worst kid I ever had. I hated teaching you. I hated your class. I mean, keep in mind, this is 40 years.
Yes.
She was waiting to say this. And she said, I went to the administration, but they just dumped you in my lap. And in my book, now keep in mind, when I saw her,
Yes.
I had goosebumps all throughout my body. And to me, it was just a sign that I should finish this book.
Oh, yeah. She gave you you gave her closure in some way, and she gave you more momentum.
A lot of people are upset with the way that she responded to me, but I loved it because what I said in my book is that she was still angry at the little boy who I used to be, not at the man who God recreated me to be.
Now, for that reason alone, I got to just point out, it is available on Amazon, and these are the 3 different iterations of it: Kindle, hardcover, and I think audio as well.
I went to the studio in New York City and recorded my voice. It
Beautiful.
was a very cool experience, but exhausting.
Well, I guess they can also stream it on Audible. Audible, I think Amazon also feeds the book towards.
Yeah.
Right? So people will definitely hear your voice tell your story over and over and over again. I'm sure that you will find a lot of people interested in this book basically being their guidepost, their direction, their white light that you experienced firsthand.
Absolutely. And, the book is not just about me. I share other people's incredible stories.
Yes.
To motivate people, because in the 1930s, let's just say when the first recovery program started, they were scraping people off the sidewalk. They were low-bottom drug addicts, alcoholics. Today, they come in different shapes and different forms. There's the functioning person who is the partner at a law firm or someone who can still maintain his family and not be thrown out of the house, right? There's a functional alcoholic, and then there's someone like me who needed to be removed from society. Now, you can't just, for some people to say, oh, just stop drinking and your life will get better. That doesn't work for people who have left a wake of destruction in their past. And so there's a couple stories that I want to share that if you're someone who has a lot to clean up, I just want you to listen to what the effort that these men put into the recovery.
Right.
First person is a friend. He was a landscaper and he didn't pay his taxes for 28 years. So my mentor helped him and said, you're going to get an attorney and we're going to go back to the IRS and we're going to make a deal. And that takes a lot of courage.
Yes, absolutely.
That's what recovery looks like to me. Now, there's a lot of men who are going to say, oh, it's causing some problems in my life and they can just stop or moderate. Right. Or they don't have the kind of baggage that a lot of us do.
Yes.
But he went to the IRS and they met him halfway with the cost. And he took care of that debt. That's impressive. I'm not sure that I would do that.
Well, probably there was something in you that resonated with him that he, like you said, felt the pleasure in giving back to you the kind of support you needed at the same time.
Well, I'm saying he went back to the IRS.
Oh.
And no, yeah, he went back to the IRS and paid them half of his debt.
So maybe it was something about you that educated him on how to feel that.
Well, no, we got clean at the same time.
Okay.
Well, you know what it was? It was another man recommending it to him.
Awesome.
Like, you've been skating by, and listen, there's not a lot of, right? Like, that's a bold move to go back to the IRS. Now, this one's my favorite one.
Yes.
This man was facing 10 years in prison.
Mm-hmm.
He skipped bail in Michigan and moved to Washington State. He got arrested in Washington State, and they put him in jail, and they called Michigan every day for 23 days and finally said, if you don't come get him tomorrow, we're going to let him out. Now, how many times does that happen? Never.
Not exactly.
So he says, I'm never going back to Michigan. Well, his father became ill. He had aging parents, and he was very close to his father. And he had, I don't know how much time he had, but he had some clean time.
Yes.
And he said, am I going to go back? Am I going to miss my father's death? Or am I going to go throw myself at the mercy of the judge, face the 10 years to see my father one time before he dies?
Wow.
He showed up to court, right, with the right representation.
Mm-hmm.
And the judge was so impressed with his character that she gave him 6 months of work release.
Nice.
Now think about that. He was willing to face 10 years in prison to see his father. Now, I definitely don't know if I would do that. And if you ask yourself, most people would not do that.
Right, right.
But that's what I'm saying is that if you have a past, you have to clean it up.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about Smart Recovery, which is a program that's non-God-based or not spiritually based, you don't have to make restitution. And I have to tell you, had I not made restitution, I'd be dead. Had I not paid people back, I'd be hiding and ducking under pool tables and running the other way when I'd see people. Right. And that's a miserable way to live.
Correct.
And so I tell those stories because I hope that if someone's watching and someone has to clean up felonies or a significant amount of debris from their past, that those opportunities cannot be avoided.
Absolutely. You said earlier also that there are ways that within bringing people together to help each other out and mentor each other and whatever, that, you know, you're an advocate of therapy and you want, I mean, most people can't afford it. Do you see yourself advocating in those groups where there could be support or funding for those therapists to really help those people? Or are you seeking grant programs in your state to help support those people?
No, I'm not right now because I'm not against it.
Right.
But the good therapists don't want to take insurance.
And in some cases now legally they're not supposed to, thanks to the big beautiful bill, which is another episode.
Right. And so I'm not saying that there aren't good therapists that are in the trenches trying to help. What I'm saying is my book is not, I'm trying to inspire people, men, right? I'm a man and I work with men on a one-on-one basis. I'm trying to inspire men to help other men.
Yes, absolutely.
It's not just related to addiction. I can tell you that when I volunteer, and I listen, I grew up, I had my own personal chef, okay? We grew up in a 8,000 square foot home with a tennis court and a swimming pool and a basketball court and a live-in chef and a nanny and country clubs, okay? Yes. Guess what? I'm still sitting here with you. None of that stuff makes you happy.
No, what makes you happy is having real, true connection, not only within yourself, but with the other people that also have like-minded values of being able to live as much as of a service-filled life, like you say, or even just one where we're just here for each other. I always say that if you're on Frank About Health, you're working with me to build a community that takes action for our secure health. I mean, that has been kind of my mantra since I came over to E360. But the thing is that it's not just a mantra. It is an actual mission that we all, if we want to have the best life possible, addiction-free, as well as mindful of how it is that we can all help each other when you witness similar situations happening to others that maybe you've overcome, and you can really educate others into being that is what brings true happiness.
Yes, and what's happened is, in my experience, and I'm in the trenches, I've been volunteering for 21 years, primarily at treatment centers that I call them in my book the forgotten ones.
Yes.
Not named Matthew Perry. I don't want to hear his name again about his death. It's tragic. It's not as tragic as millions of other Americans that aren't famous, that aren't actors, that society has just pushed aside.
Yes.
And so that's what changed my life, is helping people less fortunate. And so how about just, I'm asking men, not just in addiction, because a lot of men who it was very difficult for them to get sober, but now they have the job, the wife, the career. They have everything that they want, right?
Right.
And it's easy to forget where you came from. And so what's happening is there's a lack of commitment when people get out of treatment, but there's also a lack of commitment from the people who are in the position to help.
Correct. Correct.
Treatment is a place to start. Medically assisted treatment, like if you're someone who wants Suboxone or any of these other things, but at the end of the day, there will never be something more powerful than one human being helping another.
Absolutely. And right at this very moment, we're literally about to end the show, but I want to just point out to everybody where our introduction began, which was that day in May during our dinner plans in front of Marble Collegiate Church. And based on everything that you've heard Matt Grace say today here on Frank About Health, I want to remind all of you out there about Healthy Media, my new company that is doing what it can to have speakers like Matthew Grace on Frank About Health, because he is an advocate for change and helping people be their best selves, living their best lives, no matter what their stage in life has been. And obviously from his story of recovering from addiction and wanting to give back to a lot of men who've experienced similar limitations. I want all of you out there to scan this QR code if you're interested in finding out more information about Matthew Grace. Also find out more information on where to get the book, God Doesn't Relapse. As I said, right now it is available on Amazon, but you will see more information as you scan that QR code onto where else you could find the book. Also, I want to thank you again, Matt, for being on this episode of Frank About Health. Remember, I really want this to be the beginning of another way that we can work together to really support your rehab tour. I think you call it the
National Sobriety Tour.
Yeah, I mean, I was about to say resiliency tour, but yes, that's it. I have the flyer right here, National Sobriety Tour. And I really believe we can collaborate together on that as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'm sorry I'm being so abrupt now, Matt, but I see the ticker going away. I want to thank you again for being here. We're definitely going to be in touch. Just wait while the credits roll, and then we'll be able to wrap up our conversation. Everybody, remember, scan the QR code when you have a chance, and I'll see you all next week. Take care.